Reform Party's Robert Kenyon appeared on Question Time last night for a Makerfield by-election special. He did not have a good time. It didn't take long until questions around his sexist comments came up.
I'd rather have a career politician than a plumber who's a sexist.
So, Rob, I want to give you a chance to answer that. I want to give you a measure. So just for those of you may not all be aware of things that Rob has said in the past, you described yourself as sexist.
Allegedly.
What, you're denying that was a tweet by you?
Some of the things, not...
Okay, you described yourself as a sexist. You have made offensive comments about women. You've admitted that. You've also said that abortion is the cowardly act of women murdering a defenseless baby and that women do it so they can shag anyone they want. That's your phrase, not mine. As I say, I'm raising it because lots of people in the audience raise it, and I want to give you a chance to answer.
That's okay, I'll address those questions. So, I won't accept that label. I mean, a lot of the things have been said 15 years ago. I hold my hands up, I've made mistakes. And said
the one about abortion was just 2 to 3 years ago.
I'm just addressing the first point where she said, where I was given a label that I won't accept. I was brought up by a single parent, and my grandma, who was a widow, and an older sister. So I was brought up by women. I've got nothing but respect for women. So I think something that's said 15 years ago, dragged up from an old rugby forum, it's completely taken out of context. And like I say, I've made mistakes. I said things years ago that I wouldn't say now, and I definitely don't believe that on that point. So I hope that addresses that issue. And it's like I say, I've got nothing but respect for women.
Sorry, I'm laughing because every time I watch that clip, I'm just like, that guy is actually a joke. He literally tried, I can't be a sexist. My mum's a woman. That ain't gonna work. Sorry, mate. The Green Party's Sarah Wakefield took him to task and called on him to apologise to Carol Vorderman.
I actually spoke to Carol Vorderman this morning. She called me because she is really distressed that you have failed to apologise for any of these comments. So you said
about her specifically?
Her specifically. And she is watching at home tonight. And I wonder if you can look down that camera and say to Carol, you know what, I'm sorry. Can you do that?
Do you know what? I'll just answer that one. So, I think, people...
Did he apologise? Yes. Not really.
I've probably seen what's been said, but I never actually said anything to Carol. I commented on a comment. Okay. Don't get me wrong, it was a disgusting comment that somebody else had written, but I commented on the comment.
With approval?
Okay.
Pardon?
With approval?
No, it was a crass joke, and it's not something I'd say now.
We all say things we regret sometimes. Nobody's perfect, but we apologise and we take accountability. And he couldn't do that. But Sarah had the last word on this.
Every woman in this room and at home has been subject to shaming, whether in person or online.
And that's disgusting. It's horrible, yeah.
I think you're just proving my point. Can you believe this? Honestly, we have all been subjected to it. And the fact that a man like you cannot sit and do a simple apology, I think is disgraceful. But on top of that, Reform's policies on women are shocking. Right. Reform on day one wants to repeal the Equality Act. That is your party policy. I can't believe, as a mum of a young daughter, I'm having to sit here in 2026 and make the case for me and my daughter to have the right for equal pay. This is what the Reform Party stand for. They are a party that has a problem with women, and they need to sort it out.
Well, this is...
Well, I completely agree with Sarah at the end there. Reform is absolutely not a party that is going to support women in any way. Back in that first clip, Rob Kenyon was asked about his comments about abortion, saying it's a cop-out for women who just want to shag around. Are those the words of someone who has nothing but respect for women? To say he's not sexist because he was brought up by a single mum, a widowed grandma and a sister means jack shit, quite frankly. It's giving, I'm not racist, I've got a black mate. And it's frankly embarrassing, but that just about sums up his whole performance on the show. He also made a bizarre policy announcement.
I'm ban knives regardless of religious background, that we ban knives completely.
All knives, even cutlery. Most knives are banned, including the one that killed Henry Novak. There has been discussion around the kirpan, which is a blade Sikhs wear as part of their religious uniform, but the kirpan wasn't used against Novak. The next one is the highlight. Kenyon was asked about police recruitment.
You said you're getting 30,000 more police officers on the streets. Where are you getting these 30,000 people from? Look,
When you say where they're coming from, you know, that'd be a problem for whoever is recruiting them. I mean, I want to focus on make appeal. You know what I mean? I want to.
Problem there, Rob. If your party is in charge, you're the one supposed to have a plan on how you recruit them. Let's take a look at another clip.
And I would rather have a community made up of diversity, of women, of LGBT people, of young people, of people with disabilities, than someone like yourself who is sexist and has shown on more than one occasion an opposition to diversity, just as your party does.
Woman here in the
Spoke too soon there. Now, he did have one good moment, which has been the only clip shared from the right wing on social media. That was the topic of immigration and housing with Sarah Wakefield.
Do you not think an extra 10 million people is going to have an effect on housing?
Do you think
in the
that if
UK?
we lock down our borders, we're going to solve the housing crisis?
Well,
Is that going to solve
The thing
it?
is, the more people you have in a country, the more houses you're going to need. I know it might sound.
He's really good at explaining things like this, isn't he?
I'll make sure.
Yeah. Using immigration on the issue of housing, I think is absolutely
Are you saying it has no impact on housing?
I think Andy wanted to come in.
Let's,
No,
do you want to just answer that question, Rob? Do you think it has
Does
no impact on
immigration
housing?
have an effect on housing?
Whoever lives in this country has an impact on housing, of course.
All right.
The numbers
okay.
of people in a country. That's
Let's-
not necessarily to do with immigration.
So him looking good there was probably due to Wakefield not having a strong enough rebuttal that made Kenyon look good. I would have liked to see Sarah mention that there are 1 million empty homes, and the problem with housing is they are being hoarded by landlords, and the lack of affordable housing is because council houses are not being built. The problem isn't immigration. We always hear that we need to build more houses, and we should, but that's not the silver bullet. It's too simplistic to look at it that way. Especially when we have more houses per capita, the highest at any point in history. Kevin, I know you've seen the full show. Hopefully those clips there have jogged your memory. Will voters be put off by Kenyon, do you think?
I think undoubtedly, yeah. And there is a broader point as to the right wing losing women, especially, who have been going more and more progressive throughout the Western world, precisely because the right wing are leaning into this kind of misogynist madness. I mean, this is literally a show called Normal Island, and which is, of course, a sarcastic title, of course, because we are an abnormal island. But what is more abnormal and weird than spending, let's say, a fair chunk of the political discourse surrounding the most important by-election of recent times, possibly ever indeed, talking about Carol Vorderman's rectum? Like, this is a thing that's happening in the 21st century here in the UK. It's maddening.
Bonkers.
I feel like I'm going crazy. It's mad, especially when the person themselves, like the Reform candidate, much like Trump in America, obviously going to be sexist and going to be racist. Pointing that out is fine, but that's not going to be enough, because people who vote for Trump don't care that he's a pedophile, let alone that he's a racist, sexist. And the people who vote for Reform, again, are not voting on the basis of any ethics. They're voting because of immigration. And so the point is, you need to actually get down to the gritty of policy. And the thing that I would have really liked to have seen pushed further on was that one clip you showed there of him saying, whoever deals with recruitment. Because I wanted them to turn around and go, do you know who that is? Do you know what department of the government
actually
deals
hold a
with
bit of
this?
accountability?
Like, okay, the Home Secretary, fine. Like, who underneath them, what minister deals with that? And then it has him fumbling and go, it's the policing minister, obviously. Like, I know that, and I'm not trying to run for office. Like, he's an absolutely clueless idiot who doesn't even understand his own party's policies and makes stuff up on the fly, because it's not in any document that I can find, this banning all knives thing. So that's just his personal opinion, apparently, but that's now stated as some kind of policy, and a ludicrous policy, because as you point out, the practicality is, if I go to the shop and buy some steak knives and walk home with them, am I committing a crime under your new ban? Like, what happened to responsibility? Because the knife that was used to kill Mr. Novak is already illegal. So that wouldn't have stopped it. And having 30,000 more police officers, assuming you can find out the person who's actually going to recruit them at any point, Mr. Kenyon, wouldn't have helped either, because they'll still be ill-trained and you'll just have more police officers not saving people's lives. So that's not going to solve anything either. Again, the right wing coming up with quote-unquote solutions that aren't actually solutions at all and will probably make the situation significantly worse. Unsurprisingly. And again, you can point out that he's a sexist, but that in of itself isn't enough, because people who vote Reform clearly don't give a shit about that, because they're happy to vote for Nigel Farage. They quite like Nigel Farage, a man who, again, has some very, very clear and distinct sexism throughout his political and indeed pre-political life. You need to point out the significant damage that their policies would do, not just to women, but obviously to women as well. Things like their abortion, silliness, as far as I'm concerned. Their plan to remove equalities legislation. They promise they'll enshrine all of those women's rights in the new law, but do you trust them to do so, given the kind of people they have elected? Because he's not even the worst of them, of course, because you've got to remember McMaster, a member of Parliament who now doesn't sit for the Reform Party because of something completely different to the thing I'm about to outline, which was the fact that he had previously been convicted and sent to prison for domestic abuse of beating the shit out of his girlfriend, and was accepted as a member of that political party and indeed put into a position where he was elected as a member of the British House of Commons for that political party. I don't trust them with women's rights. Pointing these things out is worthwhile because it puts it into a proper concrete perspective for people. It's not just some tweets from several years ago that you can kind of wave away, because he never apologized or explained it to anybody, but he did just about enough to, sort of wave it away. Whereas concrete policies like that, you can't do.
Under that clip of him where he was pulled up on his sexist comments and people were like, oh, can't people change? He made those comments 15, 20 years ago, whatever it was that he said, can't people change? So yes, I think I agree. It would have been good to see some more recent examples as well, to put it into a bit more like current context.
Well, yeah, exactly. But that excuse he used was bullshit, frankly, because the comments he made about abortion being used by people who just want to fuck around was made 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And he hasn't recanted his anti-abortion stance. So is he suggesting that he's still really anti-abortion? No, he never addressed bodily autonomy in the slightest, because again, he wasn't an actual concrete reality. He was just pointed out that he was sexist, which again is fine to do, because saying the truth is one of the most revolutionary things you can do at the moment, because we live in a time of absolute deceit. But in of itself, it's not sufficient. You need to go beyond that and actually explain that, removing of bodily autonomy, removing of rights to equal pay, things like that will actually demonstrably ruin people's lives. That's a thing that will actually motivate people. Now, thankfully, it looks like from the polling that Mr. Kenyon is not going to be a member of Parliament anytime soon. Although that then means that Andy Burnham will become Prime Minister, and he's not going to change anything either. So it's a very bleak time on Normal Island.
Yes, it's very unnormal island. What do you make of the Green candidate, Sarah Wakefield? Because she seems nice, but obviously we know she's not going to win. Do you know what I mean? But what do you kind of make of her?
She does seem nice, and I mean that last clip you played, it was such a shame, because I watched it all on stream with another regular guest here, No Justice MTG, and we shout out to her. We were happy with her performance up to that point. The answers were not absolutely perfect, but she came across well. She came across as very likable, and as you point out, she's not running to actually win this seat. She's running to continue the progress of the Green Party as a mainstream political party. I mean, just the fact that they have a seat at the table is itself a show of the growth of the Green Party. And so that's a positive, the fact that the Green Party is now included as one of the parties you can't ignore, unlike Restore, massive L for Rupert Lowe and Elon Musk there. But although I was annoyed that Count Binface was left out, that's an abuse of democracy. But no, her performance was actually pretty good up to that point. And she actually started the conversation about immigration and housing relatively well by pointing out some of the sort of some of the reasons why it's not to do with immigration. And then she sort of, it was a weird own goal where she didn't need to refer to the the Reform Party guy at all. She just sort of stated Green Party policy and left it there. But she decided to turn to him, and I was expecting like, oh, she's going to have some gotcha or like a good put down line or a strong piece of rhetoric, and she had nothing. And she made him look good, not because his lines were any good, but because she had literally nothing. And that's a real shame because she'd done well up to that point. And I think she has a future in politics, but she needs to really beef up a rhetorical game because you're going to come up against much more erudite, well-spoken, and frankly, better communicators than Robert Kenyon in whatever election you find in the future. And so you're going to need to be a lot better than that, frankly.
Yeah, I think it's in those kinds of scenarios and situations of which I have absolutely zero experience, but I can imagine it is quite easy to just want to just put down the other person and go, oh, well, look how terrible this person is. And actually, as you said, if she'd have just kind of diverted it back to green policy, she could have made a better statement that would have made her look better rather than trying to just say something to make him look crap and then actually it didn't.
Well, just make the basic point that it's not about the number of people you have necessarily. You can do it in a way that it's a matter of allowing infrastructure to keep pace with the number of people we have. And you can link that back into the general discussion that they were having about the deindustrialization of the North and the fact that the North has been abandoned, which is absolutely true. By saying you need to have more housing, you need to have more infrastructure, hospitals, schools, roads, shops, dentists, whatever, in order to accommodate those number of people, and pointing out that because of the neoliberalism enforced upon Britain by the Thatcher governments, etc., since the 1980s, we have had a hollowed out investment, an absolutely skeletal investment in infrastructure in this country, to the point where we have an infrastructure that was built in the 60s and 70s, so is crumbling and outdated and outmoded and all the rest of it. And also was built to deal with a population of 50 million, and now we have 70 million. So it's not a matter of the number of people who come in, it's a matter of allowing infrastructure to increase to the point where you can actually sustain that number of people. It doesn't matter whether you have immigration or not. And frankly, you can then move on to the point that actually we need immigration because our actual birth rate is pathetically low. We have a way below replacement birth rate. And we have a top-heavy demographic situation where the only people with any wealth and income are not productive. Now, I'm not suggesting that they're bad. I'm not being Malthusian here, but they're not workers. So they're not really paying tax at this point in their lives for the most part. And so you have a ever diminishing tax base looking after an ever increasing wealthy, non-productive section of society. And that is a financial disaster waiting to happen. So you need more people coming into the country to actually sustain that because people aren't having children.